In the world of NBA, there are three players who often find themselves at the center of controversy. The first one is Dillon Dynasty Brooks. His reputation among NBA players isn't the best, and it's easy to see why. I mean, Brooks is known for his relentless trash talking, questionable on-court antics, and aggressive style of play.
Seal, Payton, right down the middle, he's fouled hard. And Payton's in pain.
Additionally, his unique fashion choices also turn quite a few heads. With all these factors combined, it's no surprise that he attracts a lot of hate. Another player who often faces the heat in NBA discussions is LeBron James 2.0 Simmons. His reluctance to take shots and his inconsistent shooting skills are well-known issues that frustrate both fans and fellow players.
That's out and running. Irving.
Additionally, Simmons has a reputation for being frequently injured and not being available when his teammates need him the most. Despite this, he earns a substantial salary and often posts videos of his workouts on Instagram at the start of every season, which people feel is misleading. This combination of factors leads many to argue that he might deserve even more hate than Dillon Brooks, who, despite his flaws, consistently shows up to play. However, there's a third player who, despite his impressive achievements, also finds himself frequently criticized. He's a four-time Defensive Player of the Year, making him one of the most celebrated defenders in NBA history.
Amaruye on the attack. Get that out of here!
Unlike the others, he doesn't engage in trash talk and is all about the game. He consistently delivers double-doubles, and his performance in advanced statistical metrics is absolutely exceptional. Yet, for reasons that aren't entirely clear, he remains a target of disdain among his peers. For instance, despite his remarkable defensive skills, he was recently voted the most overrated player in the league. His relationship with his former All-Star teammate has also been tense, and additionally, his on-court encounters can get rough. Off the court, he's also frequently the subject of ridicule on live television.
Number one, the big Frenchman is sitting on that podium, speaking his native language. We need to do this.
Is this hate justified, or are NBA players simply being disrespectful to one of the greatest defenders in basketball history? Today, I'll take a deep dive into the issue, exploring the real reasons behind the dislike directed at Rudy, and at the end of this video, I'll share my own perspective on whether the negative sentiments towards him are fair or not.
Doncic maneuvers for the lead. Got it! Got it! What a shot!
Rudy Gobert is a liability in the playoffs is a narrative that frequently surfaces in NBA discussions. The general issue is that during the regular season, when teams don't plan their games as meticulously, Rudy Gobert shines as a defensive powerhouse. But when the playoffs roll around and teams start planning more specific strategies, he's often seen as a weak spot, making him a target for the other team's attacks.
Shot 67% of their shots were from three.
Terrence Mann connects on a three.
So, about this, there's actually a valid point to be made about his challenges on the perimeter. During playoff matchups, players often exploit his defensive limitations outside the paint because, while he's tall, he's not as fast. For instance, when someone like Luka Doncic faces him on the perimeter, the matchup is often humorously referred to as barbecue chicken. At the same time, however, the statistics offer a different story. In the ongoing series between the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, for example, the difference in the Mavericks' scoring efficiency with Rudy on and off the court is like night and day. When Rudy is off the court, the Mavericks score an impressive 135.1 points per 100 possessions, but this number drops significantly to 110.6 when he's playing. This discrepancy is not just notable, it's staggering, and it clearly illustrates that despite the perceived vulnerabilities Rudy might have on the perimeter, his presence on the court substantially improves the overall defensive effectiveness of his team.
Doncic, long three, no. Rebound covered. Gobert from behind.
You know, when people talk about why the Timberwolves are doing so well, they usually mention Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. But did you know that Rudy Gobert has the highest plus-minus of any player outside the Celtics? I'm not saying he's the top player for the Wolves. That would be a stretch, but the numbers clearly show that calling him a liability is just plain wrong and unfair. So, weighing everything for and against him, my view is this. Rudy Gobert's weaknesses are quite noticeable and tend to be highlighted, especially during big games. However, the valuable things he does, like altering the opposing team's offensive strategies, often go unnoticed because they're not as visible, and hence, people tend to overlook him. Another reason NBA fans think Rudy Gobert faces criticism is because he's an international player from France. Unfortunately, being from another country can sometimes feel like being the new kid in class. You're an easy target. Some people might use this as an opportunity to boost their own status by putting him down, a reflection of broader challenges international players can face in the league. However, the counter-argument to this is quite strong. Victor Wembanyama and Tony Parker, who are also French, are deeply admired in the NBA. Additionally, other international stars like Nikola Jokic from Serbia, Giannis Antetokounmpo from Greece, and Luka Doncic from Slovenia are hugely celebrated. These examples suggest that Rudy Gobert's challenges can't solely be attributed to his international status. Well, here's my perspective on this. Other international players have not only built a solid reputation in the league, but are also offensively skilled. So, if anyone decides to trash talk them, these players have the ability to retaliate with outstanding performances on the court. In the NBA, offensive abilities tend to capture the spotlight and are seen as more glamorous, while defense, particularly when it's more about team effort than standout individual moments, like elite perimeter defense, don't get as much attention or acclaim. In my view, there's some truth to this. It's not solely because Rudy Gobert is an international player, but it's also about the type of player he is. He excels in team defense, which isn't flashy or celebrated as scoring. Furthermore, he isn't just limited offensively, but he also tends to appear awkward in many offensive situations. Imagine if players like Luka Doncic or Nikola Jokic, who are known for their offensive skills, suddenly dropped to just averaging 15 points per game, or recording what might be called a triple single. Their reputations would likely take a hit, and they may face similar hate. For example, when Luka Doncic first joined the NBA, he was often singled out by other players before he became known as a formidable player. Nikola Jokic faced the same kind of targeting before he rose to the top as one of the league's best.
Oh my gosh! Wagner in the rearview mirror.
Interestingly, you don't see this behavior towards well-known tough players like LeBron James or Anthony Edwards, who are American. This pattern seems to particularly affect international players. This suggests that there might be some truth to the idea that Rudy Gobert, being a French international player, receives a certain amount of negativity partly because of his background. The third reason Rudy Gobert gets a lot of criticism is because he struggles with how he presents himself to the public. Here's an example. A few years back, Rudy was left out of the All-Star team, and during a live TV interview, he broke down and cried.
Sorry.
Now, to me, this shows he really cares. I respect that he's passionate enough about the game to show his emotions openly. I'd much prefer someone who cries because they're disappointed about not making it among the top players, rather than someone who doesn't seem to care about their performance or just posts on Instagram during the offseason and then underperforms during the season. Showing that you care is crucial for success. However, publicly crying might not always be seen as a positive image, even when it comes from a place of genuine emotion. It definitely makes him an easy target, and as unfortunate as that is, it's the truth. A similar thing happened a couple of years ago when Joel Embiid cried on TV. He faced a lot of trash talk because of that. Anyway, if that were all Rudy Gobert had done, it might have been okay, but there's more to the story. Right before the pandemic hit and the NBA was shut down, Rudy made a joke about the situation by touching all the microphones during a press conference. Not long after, he tested positive for the virus, and then his teammate Donovan Mitchell also tested positive. Although it wasn't Rudy's fault that the pandemic was happening, his actions didn't look good. To make matters worse, Donovan Mitchell later publicly stated that Rudy's behavior around the team was a major reason their relationship deteriorated. This incident certainly didn't help Rudy's image. So let's consider the situation. Not only do opposing players find it easy to target you, but even your own all-star teammate, who is highly respected, has issues with you. This dynamic adds another layer to the criticism Rudy Gobert receives. Given all this, it raises a big question. Is the hate directed at Rudy Gobert fair? To be honest, I think any team would be thrilled to have a player like Rudy Gobert. He stands at 7'1", anchors the defense, and while he might not have a flashy offensive game and struggles with free throws, his impact is undeniable. The statistics clearly show that Rudy makes his team significantly better. He might not be a hooper in the traditional sense, with a deep bag of tricks, but he's an outstanding defensive player and a serious threat when it comes to catching lobs. So, when it comes to his abilities on the court, it really is disrespectful that his peers would consider him overrated. In my opinion, any other reasons for the dislike directed at Rudy are just baseless. Sure, he's made some questionable decisions, but who in the NBA, or even in life, hasn't? Moreover, judging a player based on his accent or where he's from is completely unacceptable. For a league that prides itself on being loving and inclusive, this kind of behavior is not only hypocritical, but also incredibly childish. All things considered, the negativity towards Rudy Gobert seems extremely unfair. You know who deserves a bit of criticism though? The Boston Celtics. And the reason? Despite being the best team in the league by a mile, they're incredibly boring. Every time I watch them play, I find myself yawning. You might wonder, how can the best team in the league be boring? Well, I've actually made a complete video explaining just that right here. So do yourself a favor and go check it out.